My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 30 years old, and last spring my parents sued me for stealing money they never gave me. They called it their retirement fund. But the truth is, it was my college scholarship, a full ride I earned. They just never told me about it. Instead, they used it behind my back to pay for my brother's education. Now, decades later, they claim I owe them everything. They demanded $150,000, threatened to seize my home, garnish my wages, and take my future. I had worked for 10 years to build a life of my own. No debt, no help, just grit. But they weren't here to celebrate that. They came to take it. What they didn't know was that one forgotten internet post would expose everything. This is the story of how I lost my family and finally found myself. It started on a Tuesday, I remember, because that morning I made the final payment on my apartment. My first home, fully paid off. It wasn't big. Just a one-bedroom condo tucked in a quiet part of the city. But it was mine. Every wall, every tile, paid for with years of skipped vacations, cheap meals, and late-night shifts. That evening, I sat on the floor, pizza in hand, thinking, I made it. No debt, no landlord, no one to answer to. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned. Then the intercom buzzed. Certified mail. A letter that needed my signature. I thought it was the deed, maybe some final paperwork from the county, but when I opened it, the envelope was cold, sterile, heavy. Inside, a letter from a law firm I'd never heard of, representing two names I knew too well, Walter and Jeanette Morgan, my parents. For the past 10 years, I worked as a nurse, 12-hour shifts, double weekends, no complaints, just focus. I started in the ER, moved to patient coordination, then became head nurse at a rehab center. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved helping people feel human again. At work, things made sense. You follow protocols, you earn trust, you give your all, and slowly, people get better. At home, I was just Claire. No spotlight, no celebrations. But that apartment I bought, that was mine. Every square inch paid with quiet sacrifice. I didn't throw a party, didn't even tell many people. I just ordered pizza, opened a cheap bottle of wine, and sat on the floor, bare feet on the tile, the silence hugging me like peace. That was the night I thought, I've finally built a life I can feel safe in. I didn't know yet my safety was already under attack. The envelope was thick, off-white, stiff at the edges. My name typed in bold, my address exact. It smelled like a courthouse. I sat at the kitchen counter, still holding the beer I never finished. Used my thumb to slit it open. Slowly. The letterhead said, Willix Crane and Associates. I didn't know any Crane. Didn't know what kind of associate sends mail this cold. I kept reading. On behalf of our clients, Walter and Jeanette Morgan. My chest tightened. My hands froze. I read those names again. My parents. The words that followed blurred. But some phrases hit like stone, breach of verbal contract, unjust enrichment, immediate repayment, then a list, loan semesters, dates, totals. At the bottom, $154,000 plus interest. Then the final line, 30 days to respond, or they would come for my house and my paycheck. I stared at the number, write it again, 154,000. My hand trembled. The page shook. I flipped back, searching for a mistake. Something, anything, but the words were clear. Cold. Final. Failure to respond within 30 days. Legal action to reclaim assets, including, but not limited to wage garnishment. I looked around my apartment. The walls, the light, the quiet. They wanted this. They wanted everything I had worked for. I sank to the floor, the pizza still in the box. The beer now warm. I sat there, knees pulled in the letter, clenched in my fist. My heart pounded. Fast, loud, unnatural. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was planned. My parents, the two people who raised me, were now pointing legal weapons at my life, and I had no idea why. To understand what that letter did to me, you have to understand the story I was told. The one they repeated for years. The one I believed. They said college was a team effort. They said we sacrificed together. They said I got a partial scholarship, that it helped but didn't cover everything. That they stepped in, took out small manageable loans, nothing to worry about. They said they wanted me to graduate debt-free, that it was a gift, a shared dream. I carried that story like a badge. It made me proud. It made me grateful. And now they had turned that story into a weapon, used every word they once wrapped in love to justify what they were taking. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark reading the letter again and again, until the paper softened from how tightly I held it. Back then, I was 17, obsessed with one thing, St. Catherine's School of Nursing. I had dreamt of it for years. Top-tier program, full scholarship, 4 years, everything covered. The day the letter came, I remember standing in the driveway shaking. "Congratulations," it said. I ran inside waving the envelope. I got in, I shouted, "Full ride." My mom was at the sink. She turned slowly, smiled, but too soft. My dad looked up from the kitchen table. Quiet, eyes tired. They sat me down. My mom folded a dish towel. My dad pulled out a yellow notepad. "Honey," she said gently, "it's not that simple. The scholarship helps, sure," my dad added, "but it doesn't cover everything." He started listing numbers, room, board, books, travel. His pen didn't stop. The mountain got bigger with every line, until my dream looked impossible. I remember staring at that notepad, all those numbers, all those reasons why no made sense. "We just can't afford the gap," my mom said, her voice soft, her hand resting on mine. "We wish we could," my dad added, "but it would bury us in debt." I nodded, though I didn't understand. I had a full ride, didn't I? But they made it sound incomplete, dangerous, irresponsible. Then came the alternative. "State school's solid," my dad said. "You can live at home, commute, we'll help." Help. That word felt warm, until later when I realized what it meant. At 17, I trusted them. Why wouldn't I? They said they were protecting me. From debt, from disappointment, from risk. So I let go. Of the dorms, the campus, the dream. And I said yes to something smaller, because I thought they were sacrificing too. A few months later, they called a family meeting. They were beaming. Michael got accepted, my mom announced. "Private university, East Coast, amazing program." I blinked. "Private? I thought we couldn't afford that." My dad smiled, chest puffed. "We've been doing some creative planning," he said. "We're investing in his future. It'll be tight, but worth it." I sat there silent, remembering that yellow notepad, remembering my dream, buried at that same table. Michael didn't say much, just looked down, cheeks red. He knew. Even then, he knew. They made sacrifices for him. For me, they made excuses. He went off to dorm life, weekend trips, spring break in Cancun. I stayed home. Room above the garage, early shifts, late classes. He got the dream. I got the plan. They never apologized, never explained, and I never asked, because I thought I simply wasn't worth it. I enrolled at the state college. Commute, study, repeat. No dorm, no campus life, just long hallways and vending machines. I worked nights at a diner refilling coffee, wiping counters, smelling like burnt toast and fryer oil. Weekends I stocked shelves at a warehouse. Heavy boxes, cold air, silence. My room never changed. Same posters on the wall, same creak in the floorboard. Sometimes I'd hear Michael call from out of state. "My dorm's too small. Cafeteria food sucks. Spring break's in Italy this year. Want pics?" I'd smile through the phone, say wow, then hang up and go back to my biology notes. I didn't complain, didn't cry, didn't question. I just kept moving, because I believed that's what strong girls do. And somewhere deep down, I still believed my parents had done what they had to, for all of us. Graduation came and went. No cap toss, no family photos on campus lawns. I took my diploma, got in the car, and went straight to work. I didn't ask why they helped Michael more. I didn't ask why I had to choose less. I told myself he was the baby. He needed more. Maybe he just earned it. I swallowed the questions, buried them under overtime, and told myself that strong people don't complain. But something shifted when I moved out. I worked, I saved, and slowly, inch by inch, I built a quiet, honest life. No handouts, no shortcuts, no praise either, just peace. I thought that was enough. I thought I had made it. So when that letter came with their demands and accusations, it didn't just threaten my home. It reopened every wound I had spent a decade pretending wasn't there. I needed help. Not advice, not sympathy, real help. So I called Vanessa Cruz. We hadn't spoken in years. She was in my anatomy group back in college. Smart, focused, fierce. After graduation, I became a nurse. She became a lawyer. We met at a quiet coffee shop. She looked stronger somehow, sharper, but still familiar. I slid the letter across the table. She read it once, expression calm, then again, eyes narrowing. Parent plus loans, she said softly. Ugly stuff. Legally, it's their debt. But she explained they could sue me in civil court, not for the loan itself, but for something called unjust enrichment. I shook my head. There was no contract, no deal. They called it a gift. Vanessa leaned in, voice low, clear. Claire parents don't sue their children over nothing. There's something missing here, and we're going to find it. Vanessa asked one question, the kind that stays in your bones. Are you sure it was a partial scholarship? Did you ever see the actual letter? I opened my mouth to say yes. Of course. But nothing came out. A memory flashed my dad taking the envelope from my hands, reading it with my mom, just the two of them. I never saw the full award myself. They told me it was partial. That's what I believed. Why wouldn't I? I felt my stomach twist, like the floor under my life had cracked open. I don't know, I whispered. I never checked. I just trusted them. Vanessa's face didn't change. She simply nodded. Then that letter isn't the real battle, she said. The real battle is what they hid from you 10 years ago. And it starts now. I went home that night and pulled out an old notebook. Dates, schools, anything I could remember. I wasn't just a nurse anymore. I was an investigator, and the case was my own life. First, I called the state university, asked for my full financial records, every loan, every disbursement. The woman on the phone was kind. Give us a week, she said. We'll mail everything. Next was harder. I called St. Catherine's. My fingers trembled as I waited on hold. Finally, someone from scholarships picked up. I explained carefully that I needed proof. My award letter from 2011. The man on the line paused. Those records are archived, he said. We'd need a written request. Or one from your attorney. I gave him my name, my case number. He said he'd try. I hung up, heart racing. One call down, a decade of silence left to break. That evening, my phone lit up. Mom on the screen. I froze. My thumb hovered. Then I answered. Her voice was warm. Too warm. Claire, honey, we're so worried. This whole thing with the lawyer's just a big mix-up. I didn't speak. Why don't you come by for dinner, she said. Just us. No drama. I'll make your favorite. I heard plates clinking in the background, the soft hum of music. Let's just talk, she added, like a family. Part of me wanted to believe her, to pretend this was all just confusion. But Vanessa's voice echoed in my mind. They're not on your side. Still, I said yes. Told myself it was just information. A quiet recon mission. I'd go. I'd listen. But I wouldn't give them anything. Not trust. Not space. Not control. Their house smelled the same. Roast chicken, warm bread, like childhood. My dad sat at the head of the table, silent, stern. My mom moved with rehearsed grace, placing dishes, pouring wine, smiling too much. She didn't mention the lawsuit, not once. Instead, she pulled out photo albums. Look at you here, she said, tapping a picture of me in scrubs, tired but proud. You've always made us so proud. My dad said nothing, just chewed slowly, eyes low, then came the shift. We're not getting any younger, my mom sighed. Your father's retirement took a hit. Things are tight. She reached across the table, rested her hand on mine. We just need a little help. From the daughter we gave everything to, that's not too much to ask, is it? I didn't answer, just stared at the gravy on my plate. Thick, heavy, cold. I left early. Mumbled something about an early shift, didn't finish my meal, didn't look back. As soon as I got in the car, I called Vanessa. They played it perfectly, I said, gripping the wheel. No yelling, no demands, just guilt, coated in sugar. She didn't sound surprised. That's a desperation move, she said. It means their legal ground is weaker than it looks. I stared at their house through the windshield. Warm light in every window. Fake peace. They want me to fold. I whispered. They're trying to wear me down. Vanessa's voice was calm, firm. Then don't fold. Hold the line. We're waiting for something big, and it's coming. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me, and drove off, leaving the house and the performance behind me. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived. Return address, State University Financial Office. My hand shook as I opened it. Page after page, a full itemized history of every loan tied to my name. There it was. Parent plus loans, disbursed each semester, 4 years, maxed out. The total matched what was in the lawsuit, to the dollar. For a moment, my chest caved in. It looked real. It looked damning. I almost called Vanessa in a panic. Almost said, they were right. I owe them. But then I stopped, closed my eyes, remembered what she told me. Don't just look at what they say, look at what's missing. This wasn't proof I owed them. It was proof they took out loans in their name. The question wasn't if they paid. It was why when I was supposed to be on a full scholarship. That night, I sat at my desk, pulled up IRS guidelines, searched every line about education credits. There it was, American Opportunity Tax Credit, up to $2,500 a year, only claimable if you paid for qualified expenses. Scholarship money doesn't count. Loan money, it might, but only if the expenses were real. I needed proof. Proof of what they claimed, proof of what they knew. So I called my dad. Hey, I said, my accountant's asking for old tax records. Something about education credits. You still have them. Silence, then his voice tight. Why do you need that? Just for records. I don't want issues later. He hesitated, then sighed. I'll have your mother scan them. An hour later, they were in my inbox. I didn't open them. I just forwarded them straight to Vanessa. 20 minutes later, Vanessa called. No greeting, just one word, sharp, certain gotcha. I sat up straight. What did you find? Her voice was crisp. They claimed the tax credit every single year, the full amount. My heart pounded. But if my tuition was covered, then they lied, she said. Not just to you, to the government. If the school had paid through a scholarship, those expenses weren't theirs. They shouldn't have touched those credits. But they did. Again and again. This, Vanessa said, is fraud. Federal fraud. I sat in silence, my hands cold. This is our leverage, Claire, she added. They thought they were suing you for a payday, but they might have just walked into a criminal investigation. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was evidence. The next day, an email landed in my inbox. Subject line, St. Catherine's Scholarship Records, 2011. My breath caught. I clicked it open. The message was short, formal. Ms. Morgan, per your request attached is a notarized affidavit confirming your financial award. I opened the PDF, hand shaking. There it was, stamped, signed, official. Claire Morgan was awarded the Florence Nightingale Full Scholarship. This covered 100% of tuition, housing, books, and required fees. 4 years. No gaps. No partial anything. Then came the final line. Award notification was sent via email to the address listed on the original application. Jeanette Morgan, 888mail.com. My mother's email. They got the letter. They read it, and they hid it. While I worked night shifts and ate microwave soup, they sat on a truth that could have changed everything. I stared at the screen. My name, my scholarship, their email. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't confusion. It was theft. They took my future, buried it, then built a lie on top of it. And 10 years later, they sued me to recover money they never spent. The sadness I had been carrying for months, it vanished. So did the guilt. The second-guessing, the hope that this was just some horrible misunderstanding. All that remained was something colder, sharper, rage. Not loud, not explosive, but deep, settled. They hadn't just lied, they had planned, they hadn't just taken, they had calculated. And now, I finally had the proof, the one document they never thought I'd see. It wasn't about defending myself anymore, it was about justice. I sent the affidavit to Vanessa. Within the hour, she filed a motion to dismiss the case. We attached the proof, scholarship documents, tax returns, everything. We thought it would be over. Simple, clean, done. But their lawyer responded with something else entirely. A new story, one crafted to twist the truth into something that looked like misunderstanding. Our clients never received the scholarship notice he claimed. It must have gone to spam. Spam. He called their actions reasonable precautions, said they believed Claire had only a partial award, that they took loans just in case. Out of love, he wrote. Out of concern. They weren't scammers, they were parents. It was bold. It was absurd. And somehow it worked. The judge denied our motion. Intent is a matter of fact, he ruled. It must be decided at trial. My heart sank. This was far from over. The days that followed felt heavier. Everything slowed. I woke up tired, went to bed wired. Work became a blur. Charts, patience, schedules, none of it stuck. I'd find myself staring at the clock, wondering how long I could keep going. Bills from Vanessa's firm started piling up. Thick envelopes, due dates, stress in paper form. I skipped meals, stopped returning texts, avoided mirrors. My apartment, the home I once fought for, now felt like a cage. Silent, cold. One night past 2 a.m., I sat in the dark holding another bill, and I thought, what if I just paid them? I could make it stop, settle, sign away a part of my salary. They'd get what they wanted. The noise would end. I'd lose, but at least I'd breathe. I picked up my phone, hovered over Vanessa's name, ready to surrender. My thumb hovered over the screen. One tap and it would all be over. Then a memory. Faint, random, but sharp. My mom years ago typing furiously on her old desktop. Late at night. Mug of tea, glasses low. She used to post on some parenting forum. Always bragging, always giving advice. She had a username. Something smug, something obnoxious. I sat up, opened my laptop, typed into the search bar. collegeparentboard.com. Still there. A relic. Frozen in time. I tried the search bar, typed in the name I suddenly remembered. I'm Proud Mom 88. Nothing. Error message. Search broken. I closed my eyes. It was stupid. A dead end. But then another thought. A last chance idea from my nursing days. When the front door's locked, check the side window. The Wayback Machine. Maybe the past wasn't gone, just buried. I typed in the URL, collegeparentboard.com, clicked through the archive link. Wayback Machine loaded slowly. Blank screens, broken images, then snapshots. I picked a date, spring of 2011, 2 months after I got the scholarship. The page loaded. Colors washed out. Text sharp. I scrolled. Forum threads from over a decade ago. Then I saw it. Username, ProudMom88, subject. When your daughter gets a full ride, but you've got a son too? My heart stopped. I clicked. The post was long, rambling, proud, She wrote about my using my scholarship as an opportunity, said it freed up cash flow so they could support Michael's tuition instead. She'll never know the difference, the last line read. She's always been the quiet one. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. There it was, the truth, in her own words. I screenshotted everything, every line, every timestamp. Sent it straight to Vanessa. No subject, no message, just the file. She called within minutes, breath sharp, voice faster than usual. This changes everything. It's her words, I said quietly. Not theory, not suggestion, a confession. Vanessa was already typing. We'll file a supplemental motion. New evidence. Timeline manipulation. Intentional misrepresentation. I barely spoke. Just listened to her build the plan. You okay? She asked suddenly. I paused. Then said, she called me the quiet one. Like silence was something to be used. Vanessa didn't answer right away. Then, not anymore. We filed the motion the next day, attached every screenshot, every quote. It was no longer a matter of he said, she said. It was written proof, premeditated, undeniable, and the judge would have to see it. The court date came faster than expected. Small courtroom, fluorescent lights, no cameras, just tension. Their lawyer looked calm, polished, like none of this touched him. I sat beside Vanessa, back straight, heart pounding. The judge shuffled papers, paused longer than usual. Then he spoke, measured, Firm, new evidence has been reviewed, including forum posted submitted by the defendant. My parents didn't look at me. Not once. This court finds sufficient cause to reclassify this matter, he continued, and opens the door to a counterclaim for financial deception. A ripple moved through the room. Their lawyer flinched. Vanessa didn't. Plaintiff's motion remains pending. The judge finished, but defendant is now authorized to pursue damages. I exhaled, shaky, slow. For the first time, they weren't just the ones accusing. They would have to answer too. We walked out of the courtroom in silence, but something had shifted. The air felt lighter, sharper. Vanessa looked over. They're not in control anymore. I nodded, fingers still tight around my folder. The folder that once felt like a shield. Now it felt like a sword. Outside, my parents stood by their car. My mom clutched her purse. My dad stared straight ahead, stone still. They didn't speak, didn't try to follow, didn't apologize, and that silence for the first time didn't hurt, because it wasn't mine to carry, not anymore. Vanessa turned to me, voice low. This is where we stop surviving Claire and start holding them accountable. I looked back at the courthouse, at the door they once used to trap me. Now I was the one walking through it, not as their daughter, but as a woman they'd have to answer to. The next morning, we filed the counterclaim. Fraud, emotional distress, misuse of federal funds. Vanessa handled the legal language. I signed every page, each signature steadier than the last. We attached everything, the scholarship affidavit, the forum post, the tax records. All of it tied together in black and white. I didn't feel scared. Not anymore. This wasn't revenge, it was truth. Laid bare, without apology. Vanessa looked at me across her desk. You're asking for $250,000 in damages, she said. That's more than money, Claire. It's a statement. I folded the final form, slipped it into the envelope. They built their life on silence, I said. Time to break it. And just like that, the girl who once whispered thank you through clenched teeth was gone. In her place, a woman who finally knew her worth. It started with whispers. Then came the posts, Facebook, church bulletins, old neighbors I hadn't heard from in years. They said I was greedy, ungrateful, twisting stories to hurt my own family. One post read, some children forget who raised them. Another, she's suing her parents over nothing. My aunt called from Florida, voice cold. What are you doing to your mother? I didn't answer. They were rewriting the narrative, painting themselves as victims, me the villain. Even Michael posted a photo, him and my parents smiling over dinner. Caption, family sticks together, even when others don't. I stared at the screen, rage crawling up my spine. They weren't just defending themselves, they were attacking who I was. But the thing about silence, once you stop using it to protect others, you stop letting it bury you too. Let them talk. I had facts, and soon they'd face them. The call came at midnight. Michael. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. His voice was low, tense. Claire, what are you doing? I didn't say a word. They're a mess, he said. Mom's not eating. Dad's barely sleeping. You're tearing this family apart. I closed my eyes, bit down the anger. They lied, Mike, for years. You know that. He paused. Too long. They did what they had to. You weren't supposed to find out. My chest tightened. You knew not all of it, he whispered. Just that. Your scholarship was real. Dad said if we told you you'd leave, that we'd lose you. I felt something in me snap quietly. You already did. Then I hung up, not out of rage, out of clarity. The last thread had broken, and I didn't need it anymore. 2 weeks later, we met in a closed conference room. Neutral ground, no jury, just tension. Their lawyer arrived first. Polished, calm, like this was just another routine file to bury. Then my parents walked in, no eye contact. My mother wore pearls. My father carried a folder tight to his chest. Vanessa slid our evidence across the table. No words, no emotion, just paper. Their lawyer skimmed it. His smile faltered, brows tightened. What exactly are you asking for, he said. Vanessa leaned forward. Clear, direct, full dismissal, public retraction, and compensation $250,000 or we go federal. My parents stayed silent, but I saw at the first flicker of fear in my father's hands, a tremble small but real. The silence stretched, heavy. Then the lawyer spoke again. "We'll need time." Vanessa nodded. "You've had 10 years. We'll give you 2 days." I stepped out into the hallway. The air felt stale, fluorescent lights buzzing above me. Behind closed doors, they were deciding what parts of me were negotiable. I leaned against the wall, closed my eyes, and it all came rushing back. The cold dinners, the quiet birthdays, the praise Michael got effortlessly, the way they told me I was strong, only when I stayed silent. The first time I realized they never asked what I wanted, only what I could endure. I used to think it was love. Tough love, measured love, conditional, but still love. But standing there alone outside that room, I saw it clearly. It wasn't love. It was control wrapped in duty, laced with guilt. And now, for the first time, they couldn't rewrite it. Not with words, not with charm, not with shame. The email came the next morning. Short, terse, measured. "Our clients are prepared to settle. They request confidentiality." Vanessa read it twice, then looked at me. "They want this buried." I didn't respond. Attached was the offer, full dismissal, public statement retracting all claims, and a settlement, $180,000. But only if I signed a non-disclosure. No interviews, no post, no truth. I stared at the screen, at their conditions, at their price for silence. It wasn't just money. It was a bribe, an invitation to disappear. Vanessa waited. "Your call," she said softly. "You don't owe them a single quiet breath." My hand hovered over the reply. A choice 10 years overdue. Forgive, fight, fold. I closed the laptop. "They stole my voice," I said. "I'm not trading it back for cash." We filed the response at 9:12 a.m. Stamped, delivered, final. Defendant declined settlement under non-disclosure terms. Case proceeds to trial. Vanessa smiled just barely. "You sure?" she asked. I nodded. I'd rather stand exposed with the truth than covered in their silence. Within hours, the emails started. Journalists, bloggers, even a local podcast. They had found the filings. The story was spreading, not twisted by family, but framed in fact. One outlet called it the quiet daughter's revenge. Another nurse fights parents over stolen future. I didn't correct them. Not yet. Let the world ask questions. Let the story unfold, because this time it wasn't about clearing my name. It was about showing every other silent girl that being quiet doesn't mean being weak. And that justice, real justice, doesn't come wrapped in hush money. By Friday, it was everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, morning talk shows, screenshots of the scholarship letter, clips from the court filings, even that old forum post. People were furious. Not at me, at them. Parents weaponizing love. She paid in silence, they cashed in lies. Messages poured in. Strangers, survivors, women who had lived the same story but never had the words. "You gave me the courage to speak. This is my life in another body. You're not alone anymore." My phone buzzed nonstop, notifications piling up, but for once the noise felt like something holy. They tried to isolate me, but now I wasn't just one voice, I was one of many. And the world finally was listening. My brother blocked me, no words, just disappeared. My parents went quiet, no more emails, no more threats, just silence, dense and final. Christmas came. No calls, no card, not even an empty gesture. And for the first time, it didn't break me. I grieved, yes, but not for what I lost, for what I never truly had. A family built on silence, affection with strings, love with terms and contracts. I lit a candle in my apartment that night, played the old record my mom used to hum, not out of longing, but release. They chose their legacy, and I chose mine. A legacy of voice, of truth, of saying the thing no one else dared to. It cost me them, but gave me back myself. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, strangers, people who once thought my silence meant guilt. I took the stand, swore in, looked straight ahead. No tears, no shaking, just truth. I told them about the letter, the scholarship, The years I spent working double shifts believing I was lucky just to get by. I told them how my own parents rewrote my story to serve theirs. I didn't rage. I didn't beg. I simply told them what happened. When I finished, there was no applause, no gasps, just quiet, the kind that settles in when something heavy finally lands. Their lawyer tried to rattle me, brought up family, forgiveness, duty. But I answered with one sentence: forgiveness isn't silence and love isn't theft. Then I stepped down, lighter than I'd ever felt. The verdict came on a Thursday. Clear, unanimous, in Claire Morgan's favor. They ruled in full, lawsuit dismissed, counterclaim upheld, damages awarded. But I didn't smile, not in the courtroom. Not even as their lawyer lowered his eyes, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about return, of dignity, of voice, of truth. Outside, cameras flashed. Questions flew. How do you feel? What will you do now? I paused, then answered softly, go home, and keep building a life that's mine. Vanessa slipped a hand on my shoulder. Firm, steady, she didn't need to say anything. That night, I walked into my apartment, the same one they tried to take. I poured a glass of wine, sat on the floor. No guilt, no fear, just peace. And for the first time in years, I finally felt free. If this story touched something in you, a memory, a silence, a truth, share it in the comments. You're not alone, and your voice matters. Don't forget to subscribe. There are more stories like this, real, raw, and unfiltered, coming soon. Because sometimes the quietest voices are the ones we need to hear most.